Do you have a theory why blood and rotting animals are being dumped on us every 138 years? Who is doing this and why?
Who is that, Merrill?
Yeah, it's Merrill.
Hey, Merrill, there's no evidence that that's happening every 138 years. The Phoenix phenomenon uh, is many different things. What we have is a 138-year periodicity of a phenomenon that's happening, but that phenomenon takes on many forms. It changes. It's very unusual, and I've documented it for you guys in my Phoenix archive playlist, like 70 videos now. It's very interesting. Now, many times, yes, every 138 years, it's red rains, red musk, red, yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't really have a theory. I do know that Harold T. Wilkins had a theory in the 1950s, and I used to follow that theory. I no longer follow it, but I used to. His theory was that Phoenix is an intruder planet. His theory is that a glaciosphere was ripped off of the surface of a frozen dead world, and that all that ice, this comes from an old theory from Hans Bellamy called the cosmic ice theory, 1902. Hans Bellamy believed that an intruder planet had a glaciosphere that ripped off of it, and that's where all the extra water appeared in our world and froze at the northern and southern extremes, creating the polar caps. He said when it passes every time after that, the red dirt that makes up the outer surface of that world, more and more of that red dust and red dirt is ripped off of the surface, and it creates these massive dust veils, and Earth passes through these dust veils. And every bit of that scenario was very plausible to me back when I believed that the sky was an actual representation of a real universe, and that we weren't living in a hollow field, in a construct. I believe his theory is demonstrating what the simulation shows will be true in the future. I don't want to confuse you guys. Remember, I am of the belief that we are running simulations on the outside of the construct, and that you and I are here experiencing them, and that we've run many simulations. And on the outside of the construct, what Harold T. Wilkins is describing exactly what is really going to happen. These events, the Nemesis Cataclysm, hasn't happened yet. We're preparing for it by running all these simulations. And I come to these conclusions by the fact that I have studied so many thousands of data points in constructed data sets from calendars. And our calendars of the ancient world do not make sense because they all involve the appearance of something in the sky for the first time. And when a new object appeared, it started another calendar. And when a new object appeared, it started another calendar. And these calendars have definitive periods attached to them that we are led to believe are orbits. So putting all this data together has made me believe that I live in a construct, and that construct is a byproduct of other humans on the outside of that construct running simulations for which I'm an active participant. I'm living through these things. And that the actual Nemesis Cataclysm that we're preparing for by virtue of all these scientific simulations has not yet happened. So when Harold T. Wilkins publishes books in the 1950s describing the glaciosphere ripped off another world, I can say, yes, that's true. But that's true of what we project is going to be happening once the Nemesis Cataclysm catapults its worlds straight at our solar system. Yeah, the cataclysm we are preparing for is basically one system colliding into another one because a star implodes. So, yeah, it's really hard to answer some of these questions without providing that context. Remember, guys, archaics there's nothing of surface value here. You have to really get deep into the archaics data in all my presentations to understand why I believe the things I believe about this construct and about these simulations. And that, yes, it can be true that this is a glacial sphere and the red dust and red mud comes from the surface of an intruder world, but that's not what's actually happening in here. In here, the sky is completely simulated.